President Trump has nominated Judge Brett Kavanaugh as his nominee to the Supreme Court. It's not a done deal yet, though. We thought we would pause and remind you of the steps of what it takes to confirm a justice before we go into any more health policy discussions of what that justice being seated might look like. Let's refresh our memory, though, of the players here. July 9th, President Trump nominates Judge Kavanaugh to fill the vacancy that will be created when Justice Kennedy's retirement is effective. That is the end of July. July 31st, the retirement takes effect. Judge Kennedy, he's 81. He's been on the bench. She was sworn in 1988 after being nominated by then President Ronald Reagan in 1987. Judge Kavanaugh comes to us from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the district, the D.C. district. He also, the name might be familiar to some, because he was in the George W. Bush White House for some time. Now the nomination was made by July 9th. By President Trump. There was a press release and an outing at the White House where he made his nomination, and Judge Kavanaugh got to address the media for a bit. The nomination is not a done deal. Like we said, there are a couple steps. The first one is the referral to the Senate. This is the Senate Judiciary Committee that will hold hearings and eventually a vote on this nomination. Now, this process takes time. The Senate Judiciary Committee will spend the next several weeks, and sometimes it takes a couple months, getting the background material together to prepare for the hearing, calling witnesses, reading background materials. Judge Kavanaugh was a prolific opinion writer on the D.C. Circuit, so there are some 300 opinions to review and share with committee members. So getting the hearings together itself takes time. Then the hearings themselves take time, interviewing the nominee himself, interviewing witnesses, calling for special experts should it be appropriate. So this process will happen over the next supposed several months. Then the Senate Judiciary Committee will make a recommendation, and that recommendation will be made to the full Senate, and the full Senate will then consider the nomination. Now, the Judiciary Committee can make a recommendation that's favorable. They can make a recommendation that this nominee is unfavorable, or they can make no recommendation at all and it just goes before the Senate. Then it only takes a simple majority vote, a 51 vote of the Senate to be official. If there are indeed 51 votes, then Judge Kavanaugh becomes Justice Kavanaugh of the Supreme Court. We have a little graphic of the steps it takes to confirm a justice. President makes nomination, that's happened. Senate Judiciary Committee has their hearings, that hasn't happened yet. Senate Judiciary Committee makes a recommendation, a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation at all. It then gets referred to the full Senate for a simple majority vote. Now, those rules for a simple majority vote are different than they used to be. It used to be a 3/5 vote that was required. That's not the case anymore, thanks to some changes in parliamentary rules that were made. The Senate right now has 51 Republicans, 49 Democrats. So that Senate, in order for this to be a successful confirmation, needs every one of those Republican votes, which they think they can get. But there are a couple questions out there because there are a couple key issues, especially in the area of healthcare and women's health. If there is a tie, if a couple of those Republicans vote no in the full Senate, it could go to Vice President Pence to break a tie. Or if there aren't the 51 votes, then it's a no, and we start over with the look for a new nominee. How long does it take? Like we said, it could take weeks, it could take months. The most immediate next step is the Senate Judiciary Committee preparing for their hearings. There are a couple articles of interest where you can learn more about the nominee and the process itself, and we share those with you. You can click in the description tab to read those articles. You can send us your questions or an email, and you can do all of that through healthwatchwisconsin.org.